So today we have with us Andy Utken. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah, that's cool. No
Okay.
problem.
And he is going to present on flows, record trigger, screen flows, auto launch. Just gonna show us a little bit of everything. So take it away, Andy.
All right. So welcome everybody. This is going to be a very interactive session.
What else is new in this?
And we are going to go over flows. And I'm going to build real time with you a couple of flows to show you how things work, right?
Oh, amazing.
And just a moment, a couple of things. Do we have a chat window here? Let me just find that. So this is the link to my YouTube channel. So I share a lot of videos there. There are already a bunch of videos on the YouTube channel that you can watch. And many of them are tutorials and classes, lessons where I'm building flows real time. There are a couple of them that are 10, 15 minutes long, you know, that are edited, pre-recorded. Again, it'll show you how to build things step by step. And there are a couple of videos that are just a couple of minutes long.
What
You
else
know,
is?
tip of the week. Oh, I'm sorry?
Oh no, I said I went to your YouTube channel. And,
Oh, yeah, it auto plays. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, the short ones will be like tip of the week, things, you know, that that'll help you like when building flows and things like that. And I have released 4 short videos. They are all 3 minutes long that talk about the brand new functionality that's coming to Salesforce Flows with Summer 21, because this is actually a very big release for flows. Summer 21, we are receiving a lot of new functionality that's going to be very useful for users. So, and in addition, I'm going to continue releasing a bunch of free content. Obviously, I'm leading Jacksonville Salesforce Saturday, so I love teaching flows. I'll help everybody. If you have any questions, just drop them on the YouTube channel. You can ask me today, obviously, I'll answer them. But you know, later on, if you get stuck doing something, just drop them on my YouTube channel, and I answer all the questions. And I'm just about to release my Udemy class, so that's going to be released next week. And so you can check that out, and you can also drop your email to this site over here, and as a code, just plug in nonprofit, and I am working on an infographic that'll help you pick which flow type to use in which use case, because this is one of the most important questions that you need to find an answer to while building a flow. Sometimes people are overwhelmed when they look at the flow types. I'm going to show you those today. But I'm building an infographic. If you want to receive that once I'm done with it, you can just drop your email there and I'll email it to you. So my brief introduction, I've been working on Salesforce for more than 10 years. I'm a platform champion. I'm the founder of BRD Pro Consulting, and I spend most of my time building flows and teaching flows. I love them, and that's what we are here today for, right? And I've also worked with multiple nonprofits, so that's an area that's near and dear to my heart, let's say. I'm always open to helping nonprofits, so that's one area where flows are quite empowering as well, because as we all know, nonprofits have limited budgets and limited resources a lot of times, and you can do a lot by using flows and dropping them like on public sites, collecting information from volunteers, donors, clients, and things like that, and that's actually available on my YouTube channel as well. You'll see 2 videos there that'll show you how to drop a flow on a Visualforce site or a public community site to collect information from your clients or volunteers or donors that you can use in your Salesforce instance. So let's get right to it. And if you have any questions, and if you want to just tell me it's going too fast, too slow, you didn't understand something, you just chime in, no problem.
And I'll monitor the chat, so
yes.
You don't have to pay attention to that. I'll interrupt if somebody chats that. I'll let you know.
That's awesome. Yes, well, we are seeing some hellos here. That's awesome. Actually, if you want to do me a favor, why don't you drop like type in the chat your level, like have you ever built any flows, or do you think you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced, so that I'll know how to structure my my session with you, right? All right, so let's get started. Let me share my screen.
We're gonna mostly have beginners, I think.
It's mostly beginners. All right, good to know.
But we've done a few flow sessions with this group, so everybody's been trying them and exploring them as well.
So you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
All right, this is the YouTube channel. So let's go to my Salesforce instance. Can you put yourself on mute, folks, unless you intend to ask a question, please? Let's go here. All right, so, well, I mean, if you go to my YouTube channel, you are going to see a series called Learn Salesforce Flows, and that was a 6-part session that I've done, like starting January this year. And the first one I've done was actually, it worked out quite well. So I started with Screenflows, and then I went through a couple different flow types to show the functionality. Now I'm going to do something similar, but I'm going to flip the script, because the reason why I started teaching with Screenflows originally was because we didn't have debug functionality in record triggered flows. In record triggered flows, the only way you found out whether things worked or not, it was kind of like process builders. You had to activate and test, run, and then things will break. And then you'll be like, why did this break? How am I going to solve this problem? And it was terrible. Now, with Summer 21 release, and this is a Summer 21 preview org, folks. So with Summer 21 release, we are able to debug also record triggered flows. So I no longer have to start teaching with Screenflows. I can actually recommend to you as well to get started with record triggered flows, especially if you have some past experience with workflow rules and process builders, because the logic is similar. It'll be familiar for you. So let's work on this use case where we work with the opportunity object, right? So what I want to demonstrate and I want to show you is a use case where we want, whenever somebody is working on an opportunity and they change the opportunity stage to qualification, we want to check the close date and make sure the close date is within acceptable range, and then update a field on the record to remind the person to double check the date if that's not within range, within acceptable range. So as you know, opportunity is an object that we use a lot in sales and also in nonprofits for development. Many nonprofits also will use opportunity. And the thing about opportunity and then working the sales cycle is every organization, every industry has their own typical, let's say, cycles. And, the sales cycle or the development cycle could be a short or a long one, depending on, you know, how you operate. So in this case, let's say we want to check whenever somebody is updating the opportunity stage to qualification, and the close date is within the next 6 months. And if it's within the next 6 months, we want to update the field next step to review and confirm close date, because we think that's too close. Qualification is one of the early stages in our opportunity life cycle, and if our sales cycle and the development cycle is a long one, then logically this should be pushed out to 7-8 months, let's say. And you know, that can be that can depend on the way you operate. So obviously you can change whatever date you want to check. So let's go to our flows. Now for you beginners, what you want to do is you want to click on your setup, right? And then in your setup screen on the left side, I usually go to my screens using search. So I'll start typing flows. And then this is my flows screen. So when you open your flow screen, you'll see a list view. This is a list view that's very similar to your objects list view, like very similar to your opportunities, accounts, contacts. When you open those, you also get list views. You can create multiple list views for yourself. You can use filters. We don't have folders for flows yet. So, you know, you can use keywords to separate out, like, for example, in the label, you can just put nonprofit flows or something, and then you can filter for those to see whichever flows you want to see in that list view. So once you click on your new flow, I guess I should hide this, right? So that do you see also the?
Oh, we only see your screen. We don't see
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Yeah,
anything Zoom related.
All right, awesome. All right, okay. So now when you open your new flow dialog, you are going to be presented with multiple options. Now, this is the area that I was mentioning before. You need to pick the right flow type for your use case. We have Screenflows. Flows were originally created for call center scripts. So Screenflows are the flows that you use whenever you have a screen interaction with your user. If you are going to present a message, that could be a static message, or you could present field values, or you could accept data input from your users, then you need Screenflows. And the record triggered flows are the type of flows that are very similar to process builders and workflow rules, and they are going to be triggered whenever a record is created, updated, or deleted. They will automatically get triggered, and then they will run in the background. Scheduled triggered flows will also run in the background at a predetermined future date and time. So these shall not be confused with scheduled paths under record triggered flows. These are not used for delayed actions. These are used for scheduled actions that you actually assign to future date and time. You'll say it is going to run on the 12th of June at 10 p.m., for example. And then you can reschedule daily and weekly. You can have it on a recurring schedule. Platform event triggered flows are a little bit more advanced. We're not going to talk about those today, but I have a video on that on my YouTube channel if you're interested. And the auto launch flows are also very popular. These are the types of flows. Again, they run in the background and they run on demand, so you can trigger them via several methods: Apex, processes, REST API, and so on. So in this use case, we are going to use a record triggered flow. And we can use two different layout modes. Freeform is the classic and auto layout is the new one. Auto layout is still in beta, but it came quite a long way. It will keep your screen quite organized and nice. So I'm going to use that one to show you the functionality. Is this screen clear for you? I mean, do I need to zoom in a little bit more?
No,
Or
I see it really big.
Okay, that's good. We want it that way. Now, what we want to do is, the most important part of record triggered flows is the start element. The start element has multiple parameters that you need to carefully set up to create the correct solution. And at the same time, you can make your solution very performant. Like, you know, you need to narrow down in many cases your start criteria to make sure that you don't run your flow for no reason. And you know that's going to make actually your system perform much better and more efficient. So now what we want to do is we want to click on edit, and we want to choose whether we want to launch this flow when a record is created or updated or deleted. In this case, we want to launch our flow when a record is updated. And we get two options: before the record is saved and after the record is saved. This is also very important, folks. And the way you want to choose here as a rule of thumb, if you are updating field values on the same record that triggered the flow, you want to be in before save area. This is going to be super fast. Before save record triggered flows launch even before Apex triggers in Salesforce. They are very fast and efficient. They are much, much better than process builders. Process builders operate only in this area after the record is saved. So the after save flows we want to use whenever we want to do related record operations, meaning we are working on opportunity today. So if we wanted to create a task associated with the opportunity, then we would want to operate in the after save area. Because in that case, we need a record ID to associate the task to, and we don't have a record ID yet before we create and save a flow. You can think of it this way. So before save, and here we are using a record is updated. So in this case, we are talking about an existing record, and we are going to do an update, a field update on the same record before save. And we want to choose the object that this flow is going to run on, and this is going to be opportunity. Now, here is the area where we choose our start conditions. So the choices are, you can have no start condition at all, which means you are going to trigger this flow whenever an opportunity record is updated every time. Or you can identify and you can enter some start conditions to narrow down the situations where you trigger your flow. So let's get started with no conditions. Let's make it simple, right? So let's not worry about performance first. Let's just worry about getting this right first, like the field update. So I launched my flow on the opportunity, and what I want to do now is I want to update the next step field, right? That's what I said, what I was going to do. So update opportunity. And now with Summer 21, we didn't have this one before. With Summer 21, we get actually a radio button choice here that says, I want to use the opportunity record that triggered the flow. You don't really have to look for that record. That record is presented to you right here as a radio button, and you can just simply say, like, you can pick a field on that record and do your update. So next step, right? I want to update the next step field. This is a standard field, so you can actually do this and test this yourself. And I want to say, this is is there a question?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I want to update that field and I want to pass a static text to that field. I don't even need to use a formula. I can just start typing here. Please check and confirm close date, right? So this is the simplest form of what I was trying to do. So this is going to take all the opportunity records and update the next step field on that record to the static text, static string that I'm passing to it. So let's start with that. Obviously, we need to add some conditions, but we need to name our flow. So it's very important you get into the habit of saving your flow early on in the process because you don't want to lose your stuff, right? So if your computer gets disconnected, whatever, you might lose your stuff. So let's call this one update next step record trigger before save and NPS flow. So give a name to your flow, the label. There are some advanced parameters here that you shouldn't worry about for now. Save. And now I can activate this flow, or I can first debug it. Well, I didn't have this option before. It didn't work. Now it works with Summer 21. So I can say I want to debug this flow. And the cool thing about this one is I can test the start conditions, or I can skip the start conditions. So for now, I can skip the start conditions. I can run the flow as another user if that's available to me. And this flow is going to always be tested in rollback mode, which means any change that the flow is doing is not going to be committed to the database during the debug run. And I can select an opportunity that this flow is going to run on. Let's say it's this test opportunity and run. So on the right side in debug, I can see that these are the field values of the opportunity that I'm working on. This is the update step, right? And in the update step, I'm trying to find my next step. And I couldn't. Yeah, next step is right here. So I'm passing, please check and confirm close date to the next step field. So everything looks okay. I'm going to activate this flow and see how things work. Before I test this one with you on a record, I want to also make sure that I have deactivated the other flow, because before I started the session, I was working on another flow, which is probably active right now to try things out. That one is active. So I need to deactivate that flow so that that won't interfere with my operations. Okay, so these are all my active flows. I can actually double check that way too. I have a couple other flows here. I don't think those are going to intervene with what I'm trying to do, but let's see. All right, so let's go to one of the opportunities. This is the opportunity that I was working on and testing. I'm going to clear the next step field here, save. As soon as I save, actually the same value came back, because that's what the record triggered flow that I just built is doing. Let's do it on another one so that it is clearer for us to see. I have a bunch of test stuff over here from also my previous sessions. So here is another opportunity. In fact, I use this one to demonstrate another functionality. It's checking something else. Let me just do an edit on this opportunity. As soon as I do an edit on the opportunity, it is setting the next step field to please check and confirm close date. So any questions so far?
I see one person raise their hand. Did he answer your question?
No, I had a question related to the activation and deactivation. So I'm assuming when we are creating change sets or deploying the flow from which are lower environment orgs to the production through Copado or some other software, do we need to have it deactivated first or keep it activated?
The question is related to using change set or Copado or the other tools. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could use chain sets. So in any scenario, does it have to be deactivated first before we?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be deactivated. I can speak to the change set scenario. What is going to happen is when you create your change sets, you go in and then you pick all the different components that you are going to include in your change set, whether they are profiles, objects, fields, and whatever. You actually pick the flows that you want to include in your change set. They don't have to be deactivated. The way it works is once you deploy your flows, they'll be not active on the other side. I think there is a way you can automatically activate them, but I don't recommend that anyway. So they won't be active in the destination organization, and you need to activate them. As soon as you activate them, they'll be working there active. And sometimes there are some things that you need to do on the other side as well. So to adjust a couple of parameters, whatever, and then deploy, do your testing or final testing, and then you're done.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no problem at all. So any other questions at this time?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know whether I followed properly or not. So do we need to change the opportunity stage then based on that the record, like the field will update, something like that?
Yeah, well, I think I may have explained the whole thing a little bit confusing. Sorry about that. Now, I actually, when I first started the session, I explained to you the use case and the final state and stage of where we want to get to. We haven't built that one yet. So what we are doing so far is whenever an opportunity record is updated, we are updating this field. Now, what we need to do is when I started the session, I said, I only want to do that when somebody updates the opportunity to qualification stage, and then I want to check the close date and then put this note on the opportunity. And we're going to get there now.
Can you come over and say what you're doing, like in a, as an overview in this flow, like what you're doing basically in this flow?
Oh, okay. Of course.
Yeah. Thank you.
Here. Now let's go back to our flow. All right, this is our flow. So I'm going to click on it. That'll take me to my edit dialog. And this is just a one-step flow, one-step record triggered flow. What is this though? Now it is the my start element says, start this flow whenever an object record is updated before the record is saved. On which object? On the opportunity object. Do I have any conditions, start conditions that I want to narrow down the type of record that I want to run this on? I don't. So whenever an opportunity record is updated, I'm going to run this flow. And there's only one step. It's just update. And if you've played with before, say flows before, we used to do assignment step. We don't really have to do that anymore with Summer 21. Before save or after save, we can just use the update element. So the update element says, take the record that triggered the flow. And again, there are no filter conditions because I can narrow down again using filter conditions here. Always update. Please check and confirm close date value to the next step field. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
No problem at all. So now what we want to do is we want to introduce checks, right? So whenever you want to evaluate whether a certain condition applies or not, what you want to do is you want to add a decision element. So one thing I want to check here is close date let me just make this short, 6+ months away. Right? Okay, so I want to check whether the close date is 6 months away or not, right? Is or not. So yes, 6+ months. Less than 6 months. So two different conditions. And here, I need to check that, right? So, and the way I can check that, because I specified certain number of months or days, I'm going to need a formula. It's a very simple formula though. So I can create a formula resource either on the left panel here in my toolbox beforehand, or I can just do it here whenever I get to this stage. I can click here, new resource, and then I can start typing saying I want to create a date difference formula. And what is this formula going to do for me? It's going to be a number formula, no decimal places. And I want to subtract two values. When I want to call any of the field values on the record that triggered my before save flow, I'm going to use the $record notation. My insert resource pick list and the dialog actually shows me what the current record is, $record opportunity. And I can go in there and then pick the close date. And when I click on it, this is going to enter the correct syntax for me to refer to that field value in my formula. So close date minus, and flow has certain field values that I can use in my formula calculations. Flow has a current date field value that I can use. So this is subtracting the current date that the flow is running, which means it's the update date today, from the close date. So let's say I updated the close date today as a user to the 30th of this month. Today is the 5th of this month. This difference is going to give me 25. It's going to give me the difference in days, 25 days. So I can say here, if the difference is greater than 180, because 180 days is roughly 6 months, then yes, 6+ months condition will hold true. If that's not true, then I'm going to use less than 6 months. So I ended up with 2 branches. I want my update to happen only here. I don't think there is a good way for me to do this on auto layout format. So I'm going to save this one as a new version and get out of the auto layout format for a second to just edit and fix this. So I want to delete the 6+ months branch and again go back to auto layout. Now I have what I wanted to do. Now, so I have a decision. The decision is checking whether the close date is more than 6 months away or ahead, let's say. And if it's less than 6 months, it is going to add a reminder on the opportunity and update the next step field with please check and confirm close date. Were you able to follow what's going on here, or do you want me to explain a little bit?
I have a question.
Sure.
What is that dollar flow representing here? Like dollar record represent the current record. What is dollar flow is representing?
Okay. Dollar record notation is a reference to the current record that triggered the flow. You know,
Yeah, that I understood. I'm asking dollar flow.
oh, dollar flow. Dollar flow is actually a, let me just show you here.
For the current date, you pick dollar flow, right?
Yeah. Dollar flow is actually kind of like a system variable that exists in every flow, like all flows.
Oh, okay.
So there are a couple of things that you can use. Like, for example, you can use in your decision criteria directly. You don't even have to use in your formulas. You can use the current date and time. You can use some of like current stage, interview start time, a couple of things. I don't usually use any of these, but I use current date and time a lot because sometimes I need in my own flow what time the flow is running. And if I need to do some date and time operations, that's the best way for me to get the time and pull it into my flow. This is always available to you.
Okay, so like dollar flow is the system variable for all the flows.
That's
and
right.
the fields that I see here that I can access with the help of dollar flow, like current date and time. That's
Yeah. You can reach all of these.
Oh, okay.
I cannot tell you what each and every one of these do. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know all of them, but these I use a lot. Current date and time.
Oh, okay, got it.
So
Thank you.
that's whenever your flow is running. And in this case, whenever, I mean, when is your flow going to run this time is when the opportunity record is updated. Like if it's not a record triggered flow, it's going to run on demand. So you don't know when it's going to run. So you can use that date and time in your calculations.
Okay,
I have a
got it.
second question on that really quick.
Yeah.
Is there any difference for using the flow current date and time versus using in a formula at least today or now?
I don't think there is. I use them both.
Okay.
I also use now before, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use those. I don't think there is any difference. There may be, or there could be some differences. I have no idea what they would be. I mean, I cannot really imagine what the difference could be, but yeah, I mean, I don't think so. Because look, flows are bulkified and then they run like in one transaction. And if the transaction fails, the whole thing is going to fail. So I cannot imagine they could be different. The only time they could be different, I guess, if you have some kind of operation in your flow that could break it into multiple transactions, like pause, scheduled path, and then those could differ maybe, yeah, but like I said, this would be very advanced topic, and I don't think it plays it comes into factor here at all.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So let's go back here. Yeah, we need to test this now, right? So let's debug this. This is also new. This is awesome. Now you need to save your flow before you debug to make sure that all your changes are included in your debug. And now you get a warning for that if you have not saved your flow. I don't think we had that before. This is very good. So let me just skip the start condition requirements, which actually don't come into play because we are starting every time an opportunity is updated. So we want to find an opportunity that doesn't have the next step field already filled up or entered. Let's go to opportunities again, find one. Or the field value could be something different. Yes, the field value is different. That's fine. Let's use this opportunity. Opportunity is change 7. My Zoom panel is in front of me. Let me just push that aside. What was it called? Bob is changed 7. Run. So, and that's another thing I have not mentioned. When you run debug, you are able to visually see the path your flow took highlighted on your canvas. This is super helpful. So this is telling me my flow went through the decision step. And when it reached the decision step, it took the outcome path titled less than 6 months. So, and we can see that here in my debug, the date difference was minus 32, and that's less than 6 months, so it went that way. But I think I need to edit my opportunity because my close date is in the past. That does not make any sense. Let's do that. Let's fix that first. July 15th. The other version of the flow is active right now, so it updated the flow already, the opportunity already. Let me just get out of here. So this is my flow. If you want to check all the versions of your flow and which version is active, this is where you want to go. So I want to deactivate this version here. So there is no version that is active doing this on my flow now. And let me just update this field and then empty the field value. Go back to debugging on the last version. Where am I here? So open this one, the second version, and debug. Skip start conditions. Opportunity is changed 7. So yeah. So it is going down the branch that says less than 6 months. And the reason for that is the date I picked is 40 days away. And that should update my next step field. Please check and confirm close date. So this is the record I'm on. I need to refresh my screen. And go to details. I'm in debug. I'm sorry. I'm in debug, obviously. I need to activate and then test this. save. Yes. Please check and confirm close date. Now let's check the other scenario where the close date is actually, let's say, in 2022. It's quite far away. I couldn't make the change. Okay. So save. As you can see, I did not get my next step field value updated. So this time I'm going down the other branch where I did not define any actions. So nothing is going to happen. Any questions?
I don't see any.
Okay. So there's one thing for us to, yeah, go ahead.
I just asked one. Would you create a path for close date is invalid?
Would I create a task? Yeah. Do you want?
In your flow if the close date is invalid, so if it's in the past?
Yeah, of course, you can do that. You can define all kinds of different scenarios. Yeah, that could be also a good one to define, to say, well, that's in the past, you know, that can't happen. It's actually a scenario that you should worry about, possibly more than the scenario I just defined here.
Would that be more of a validation rule though?
Yeah, well, you cannot really use record triggered flows as a validation rule. Yeah, that would be more of a validation rule. And by the way, I'm just updating a field value here for demonstration purposes. You wouldn't do that in a normal scenario either. You wouldn't update a field value to warn the team about, you know, what needs to be done next. That's not usually what you would do. But what you could do in this case, which would make the whole flow a little bit more complicated, so I didn't want to go into that at this stage, but you could email. You could email the manager. You could email the owner. You could do a chatter post. You could do a task. You could warn that way. Yeah, validation rules are very good. You can use validation rules for this purpose, but validation rules obviously stop people from saving altogether. There could be some situations where you would say, you know, I want them to save, but, you know, I want somebody else to check on it or something, you know?
So does that answer your question, Pam? Yes, okay, great.
Okay, awesome. So let's go back. There is one thing left to do for us. This is the important part, also one of the important parts that I mentioned. You want to make sure that you adjust your entry criteria quite well. So I'm going to save this flow as a new version again. So that you don't run the flow in situations where, you know, it is not necessary. You know, you don't want to slow down your system or, you know, use up your governor limits or something on the Salesforce side, unless you have to. So now this is running every time a record is updated. And what is it doing down here? It's only doing operations related to the close date. So it's checking the close date and updating a field value to give a message to the user. Only, we said only, we want to only do that when the opportunity is in qualification status, because if the opportunity is in any of the later stages, then the whole check of 6 months won't make any sense. I mean, if it's just in negotiation stage, from negotiation to closing the sale, it should be max 1 month, maybe, you know, that it wouldn't make any sense. So what you would want to do here is you want to narrow down here the conditions, not here, we have done this one already, right here, the conditions where your flow is running. So, and you would do that in condition requirements. These are your start conditions. Now, the wonderful thing about Summer 21, again, that we didn't have before, is we can use is changed now here. And we can evaluate field by field whether that field has been changed or not. So in this case, I only want to run my flow if the close date changes. If the close date doesn't change, I'm not going to worry about anything. If somebody goes into the opportunity and updates the opportunity name, title, some other details, updates description, I don't want to run my flow. So close date, we have a bunch of different things, different operators we can evaluate, and we didn't have this before. In Summer 21, we get is changed. And this is something we had on the process builder side, which many people desperately needed. So that's available now. So if close date is changed, is true. And if the stage, and the field name for that is stage name, the label of it, if the stage name equals qualification, I want to run this flow. If these don't hold true, then I don't want to run my flow. I can use and, I can use or, I can switch to custom logic, which allows me to do one and or, one and two or three, or use parentheses and things like that. I don't need any of that for now. I want this flow to run only when 1 and 2 are true, which is close date is changed and stage name equals qualification. So save this one, activate, and we can go back to our opportunity to test this. So the opportunity that we have open has the next step field empty. So if I'm not changing this, and if the stage is not qualification, right now it's closed one, nothing should happen. I'm saving it. As you can see, my next step field has not updated. So I'm going to change the stage to qualification, right? It's right here, qualification. Mark as current stage. Did anything happen here? Nothing happened. Why? Because I have not updated the close date. So let me just update the close date and make it 7/17. Save. I did not get an update. Why didn't I get an update? Now that's an interesting. Oh, 2022. Jeez, not paying attention. Sorry. All right. 7/17/2021. Yes, voila. Please check and confirm close date. So let's try one more thing. If I delete this field value and at the same time change this one back to 2022, nothing should happen. Again, no updates on next step field. So the reason why this is quite important is the entry criteria here, folks. Because if this criteria does not hold true, your flow does not run at all. It doesn't do anything, which is great. There are a couple of things that happens when you do that efficiently. One, you work very efficiently with your flows and automation, and you don't cause any problems or trouble. And two, if you have multiple automations, if you have Apex triggers, process builders, workflows, you need to then be very careful. If you can use your criteria very well, and your criteria ensures that you don't do operations like on the same records, you can do your operations on mutually exclusive record spaces, let's say, then you are not going to end up in trouble. Any questions?
What is the difference between the options at the bottom of a screen? They sound the same to her.
This one? This one right here?
But yes.
Oh, okay. Very good question. I agree with you. They don't make a lot of sense, but this is actually a very important selection as well to make your flows much more efficient. Now, they don't come into play when I use is changed. When I use is changed, I am unable to change this. So I'm locked out of the choices here. But if I don't use is changed, let's do that. This one becomes quite powerful. What this one is saying is, I want to run the flow every time a record is updated and meets this condition, which means this in practical terms. If I, as a user, change the description on the opportunity and the stages qualification, then this flow is going to run. But my use case doesn't want me to do that, actually. You know, if a user changes any other fields that I'm not interested in, I don't want to keep running the flow. So what I can say here is I can pick this to say, I want this flow only to run if the update that the user is doing is changing the stage name to qualification. Was I able to explain that one? Or
She says because your update is field specific, yes? Not record specific.
What does that mean?
Sorry, it's probably easier to speak because the condition we're talking about is when a specific field has changed, whereas this is looking at when the record has changed. So if you changed a different field, like your description field, you don't want the flow to run. You only want it to run when your change date or close date field was changed or updated.
Yeah, well, it could be one field or multiple fields. So let's say if I have here also close date, all right? So I can say when my close date equals 7/15/2021, right? I could have multiple things right here. So I can again play with this. I can say, I want this flow to run whenever this condition holds true. So here's the thing, the important differentiation is this. This condition could hold true on one opportunity, one single opportunity record that I could be updating every time as a user and changing other fields, not these fields, other fields.
Exactly, yes, other fields.
In which case, because the record is being updated, this flow is going to run every time. But you know, I'm not interested in that. So what I want to do is I want to pick this one in that case to make sure I exclude all those scenarios, and that'll make my flow run much more efficiently as well. Again, I'm not going to keep the system busy for silly stuff. So then it is going to only run when the opportunity record is updated and this is becoming true during that update. So it was not true before. It was false before, now it's true. It's a little bit complicated.
That makes sense to me. It's really the English of and meets versus to meet, right? The to meet means you're really impacting these fields in your condition.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, You're welcome. It's a complicated topic. It's not going to, well, here's the thing. If you're learning flows and you are not that advanced, you can operate here all day long. And then, and also with your entry criteria, the start criteria, you don't have to be that precise, just make it work. But then go back and then do a review on your entry criteria, start criteria, to try to narrow down the situation where your flow is running, and also use possibly this. And then that'll give you a much better solution. That's how I can say it.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in workflow, there is an option when subsequently meet the criteria.
Where is that? In workflow, yes.
In workflow?
Yes.
So which one is that one, the subsequently meet the criteria? The first one or the second one here?
I don't know. I know what you're asking, but I don't know. I cannot answer that question. I haven't done a side-by-side comparison. Can anybody else answer?
Yes, it's the second one.
The second one. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, so the second one is like subsequently. So before it was not meeting, now it's meeting, then it will run, right?
Exactly, yes.
Yes. Okay.
The same one, but for the flow, yeah. Same option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I did not know that. I learned something new. And the funny thing is, it turns out from workflow to process, the English changed too, right? Why did they use something different then?
And English is not my first language, so I have to memorize it. It took me very long to understand what they are saying.
We have to talk to Salesforce.
No, he's talking about Salesforce, not you. He's talking about why did they change the language?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I mean,
Change the language. Yeah.
As you can probably hear, I'm all native, right? From Alabama, Florida, whatever. No, no, it's not my first language either.
Thank you.
Okay, so you were able to follow this, right?
Yes, I was able to follow it.
Yes.
If you are asking me.
Yes.
Okay, great. So now we are going to go into other areas, time permitting, right? So we have covered the record triggered flows. Let me just show you really quick if I can do that. Let me see if I can pull this off, right? So this is the one thing that I want to show you that not many people know. This is our secret. Don't tell anybody. No, I'm just kidding. Here, so you can save as a flow, and you can save your flow as a new flow. That's not the secret though. You can go into the advanced area and you can change your flow and save it as a different flow, different type of flow. So you can make your flow an auto launch flow, or you can make your flow a screen flow, and then continue building with the components, the elements that flow type makes available to you. This is pretty strong, and in the early days of my flow work, I used to actually recreate the stuff that I created before to try another flow type. You don't really have to do that. But let me, before I go into that, let me just show you the after save flow, because after save flow is also in record triggered. I don't really have to do that yet. Let me just, as a new version, that's enough. And let's make this one. Well, actually, that probably wouldn't be a good idea because I called this one already before save. Let me do a new flow of the same type. I'm going to call this one after save. Delete this one, recreate the API name, save. Okay, this is my after save flow. So I haven't changed it to after save yet. Let me just change it to after save here. So I'm going to use after the record is saved here, when a record is updated after the record is saved. So let me ask you, why am I doing this? What do you think I'm going to do this time? Because I changed to after save. When do I need to change it to after save? Can you remember?
When you're updating related records.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. So the conditions are the same. I want to do related record operations, not the same record. The same record operations can stay, but I want to create a task here. Let's do that. Create task. One task, and use separate resources, object task, and field is going to be owner, is going to be $record owner. Whoever owns the opportunity should own this task. Oh, this is something that I want to show you here. Let's not do this really quick. When you are picking fields like this and you start typing owner, if you want to use the owner ID from that record, you want to pick this. This is the type text. You can see that here. If you want to drill down and then get the user's, the owner's email or something, then you'll click on this one and it will give you the related fields. So date should be flow current date. Let's use current date and time, and field. What else do I need to set? What ID, the related to record ID should be my record ID, $record ID. I want to relate the task to the current opportunity. And let's set status. When I pick a pick list field, I'm going to be presented with options. So status is not started. Stage, do we have a stage here? No. Status. What else is there on task? What other required fields are there? Can anyone remember? We set owner, activity.
Description.
I'm sorry?
Subject and description.
Yeah, let's set the description. Very good point. So what did we say? Check close date.
And then you need subject.
Subject? Yeah. Let's set the subject the same then. All right.
Monique is asking what's the difference between what ID and who ID?
Is that a question?
Yes, Monique is asking what's the
Okay.
between what ID and who
Yeah.
ID?
Yeah, this you'll see this in tasks and events, activities. You'll see this a lot. There are a couple of fields like this where you can even you can even relate multiple record IDs to one ID, and the name is quite descriptive. Actually, it's meaningful because what ID can only be associated with things. Like records, like opportunities, and who ID have to be people, like the user. So what ID means in fact, what kind of record or what record do you want to relate this task to? And you can use that to relate your task to your opportunity, which means your task record is going to get a link on it under the what ID field to your opportunity record. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
All right. So let's do this. Let's see if that works. So this we need to set to a close date, the status qualification. And I guess I forgot to close my messaging applications. Sorry. What was I gonna do?
Is the task on the related list for this page layout?
I'm not sure. That's why I wanted to go to tasks.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's here. It's just not displayed on the record. So we have created now a task. We said set the date to today. Subject, check close date. The label, the description and subject both check close date, and right here, comments check close date. And what ID is here, actually, it's a little bit more descriptive here. The label for the field is called related to. So it is related to the opportunity record that we are working on. Status is not started. Oh yeah, there was also a priority that we haven't set, but it defaults to normal. So yeah, that's how you would use the after save. One more thing before we close out, the record triggered flows. I mean, record triggered flows now have so much functionality, we could spend days talking about this. There is also another thing that you can use here in your decision, for example, that you should know. You know how we use dollar record? We can also use dollar record prior. So practically, I can make very sophisticated decision criteria that says, you know what? I only want to check and update that field if the stage is changing from ID decision makers to qualification. So in which case you would say, you know, dollar record prior, stage name equals ID decision makers, and then, you know, dollar record stage, the new stage is this. So it's, you can practically.
Oh, okay. So that's like if somebody skipped a stage, you could do that.
Yes, of course, of course. You could be slapping people's heads and going like, you cannot skip a stage.
Right. and you can do that on validation rules too, but I really like that. That's cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, in that case, you would this would be an ideal situation for me, like to email the sales director, for example, right? Or the development director, instead of stopping them, saying, you know, like, this is because this is a training opportunity, right? If they are doing that, most probably they don't know how to go through the process, or, you know, somebody is using some kind of shortcut that you want to talk to them about, right?
Right. So you could say if maybe if somebody is if they're often skipping a stage, you could do record equals one stage, the stage on the right hand side, and then the record prior is the one on the left hand side, and there's one missing in the middle.
Yeah.
I do have a question about the summer 21 release.
Yes.
This was only available, some of these like the is changed function and some of these new functionality you've talked about. You said they're only available in preview orgs?
No. I am in preview org because the release is scheduled on our production orgs, for example, next weekend.
Oh, okay.
It's not there yet. No, it is definitely in summer 21, but you know, we don't have it live yet.
Okay, so it's not just going to be for a subset of
No.
Okay, cool.
This is just a sneak peek for you. I mean, it's available for everybody.
Okay, cool.
All right, one more thing. You said though, when you were talking about prior value and, you know, like it's changing whatever, you said function. So this is not the function part. That actually reminds me of one more thing that you can use. Again, this is a very long topic. I don't want to go into a lot of details. Now here, I can use is new, is changed.
Oh, okay.
That's the function part. So if you use those on your process builders, on the process builder side, and you know, those were actually formulas, you can take them and paste them here. You're going to have to make changes to references because you're going to have to use the dollar record instead of whatever you had before. like for example, dollar record amount, and then now you can use this. Is changed, prior value, is new, is it doesn't need an operand. So you can say, I mean, the opportunities are limitless.
Okay. Cool. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, you got a lot of questions.
Yeah, it looks like there's a question about knowing the difference between record prior and is changed. So like rather than saying like this field is changed, true or false.
Yeah,
if you were to
exactly. So yeah, I mean, is changed is going to just give you true or false, right? So if something is changed, but if you wanted to create conditions based on what the prior value was. So if you're checking if the prior value is, let's say we're talking about stages again, qualification, and the next value is closed won, then that's more precise. That's much more precise.
Yeah, I was mentioning how in the chat, how I'll use like record prior to see if the field has changed. So instead of using is changed, I don't know why I was doing it. I don't know if is changed wasn't available. But basically, I would say like record stage name does not equal record prior stage name to then get like the same thing as is changed.
Right, yeah, we didn't have is changed before. That's why. When we didn't have is changed before, we used to check whether the prior value is the new value or not. We don't need to do that anymore.
Sweet.
As of next weekend.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Or you can just spin up a dev org and start playing with it right now.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Well, right now you can do. You can use, for example, is changed. You can say is changed stage name, true, right? And the new stage name is new stage is qualification. So then you can say, okay, well, the stage would have to change, but the new value is this, or the stage would have to change and the last value is this, or you can just filter down based on prior value and the new value, and then you get a bunch of combinations.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I am learning both flow and trigger. So what is like is change, new and old, whatever is the same thing, the trigger dot new holds? Like, is it going to replace, like flow is going to replace trigger in future?
Thanks for asking this question. Very good question. Now I'm biased. So I'm going to tell you, yes, flows will be the future. No, like here is the thing. If you are able to operate in before save flow space, right? Then there is no reason for you to do any Apex triggers. They are performant, you can do that. If you have very complicated scenarios where you want to do a bunch of triggers and they go all over the place, then the general recommendation and approach by many programmers, technical people, is to control your triggers on the code side, right? Because you can call flows from your trigger framework on Apex, right? You can do that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Or there is another approach, which I like to think should be the future operation mode, but I don't know whether we'll get there. We can call also actions, Apex invocables from flows. So we can combine everything on the flow side as well, which will make it much more manageable for the less technical as they go into the future. But we're not there yet. So that's another approach.
Oh, okay.
And I think if you, I could go back and watch it again. When we had the conversation with Warren a couple of weeks ago, and he's a developer, I asked him that question. I was like, where do you think developers will be
I saw that yesterday.
deprecated? Basically. And then he gave examples of when you'd still need them. So.
Okay, the thing about the process builders and workflows, Salesforce said in 2020 during the release readiness webinars, it's recorded, you can just watch it again, and they've said it over and over again. They are saying we are not going to develop or improve the functionality for workflow builders or process builders, workflow rules or process builders. So you can continue using them, and they didn't say they are going to deprecate them or stop supporting them or something like that. I don't think that's going to happen anytime in the future, in the near future. You shouldn't worry about that. I mean, we haven't even shut down Classic, but I mean, here's the point: if something can be done, it should be done. The new stuff in Flows, first of all, right? There's no reason why you should be working in those other areas unless you want to implement a functionality that doesn't exist on the Flow side, because Flows are much more efficient and they are like debuggable across the board now. Why do you want to work blindfolded when you can do everything here and you can debug stuff? You can see it's a fantastic tool, but there are a couple of things you cannot do. For example, many advanced people who are doing sophisticated automation, they don't like the fact that the record triggered flows don't have subflows yet. I don't think it's a huge issue, but some people think it's an issue. The record triggered part doesn't have it yet. Okay. And there is another thing. If you are dealing with outbound messages, we're talking about messages to external systems that many of us don't actually touch. Those are only available in workflow rules still.
Right.
And some time-based operations, there are some considerations about time-based operations, although you can pretty much do everything on the Flow side now.
Okay, have you heard anything about when they might do subflows for record trigger flows?
1 or 2 releases further. Okay. But for that, there are a couple of workarounds. One, you can actually use auto-launch flows. Auto-launch flows have subflows and continue triggering your flows from your process builder.
Right, exactly.
But if you do that, then you don't get access to any of this good stuff about is changed and is new and things like that, because that's only available to record triggered flows. So that's the downside there.
Oh, got you. Because they're trying to push you towards that. That's probably why they're not having it in the auto-launched flows. I mean, I'm sure that's not the only reason, but that's.
What's that?
I would say they're trying to push you to use the record triggered flows if you don't need to do something sophisticated like that, because now it will have these changed and such, but the auto launch flows will still not have that as a possibility.
No, auto launch has subflow possibility. It uses subflows.
No, I wasn't talking about never mind.
Oh. No, it's all right.
I don't think I phrased it right, and I think but Gail is asking, what about calling a flow? Oh, you already answered that. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Want to speak up? Turn off your mic.
Yeah, one thing that I want to remind everybody, some of the concern related to subflows, if you ask me, my personal opinion is unsubstantiated. It's not real. The reason why I say that is this: if you're doing record triggered flows, you're not supposed to be doing mind-blowing 10-page stuff anyway, because especially if you're dealing with your high volume standard objects, you are going to break things. You don't want to create a record triggered flow that does this and that, and then add a salt to the soup and this, and I don't know. So it's supposed to be simple, hopefully. So a lot of times people overcomplicate their solution and they try to do too many things.
Yep.
In the record triggered space, you don't want to be doing that anyway. So the first question always is, why am I doing this? Should I be doing this? And then you know the solution.
Mm-hmm. How do you recommend the best way to document the flows you have built so you or someone else can quickly understand whether a flow is impacted or needs to be reviewed?
So this is a scenario where you have multiple flows that you have built over time, and then you know you want to make sure that you don't break things, and you know is that what?
And that a new person coming in can understand what you did and why you did it. Sort of like commenting out code.
Yeah, I don't really have a good answer on that. If you find a good answer, please let me know. I mean, in fact, the documentation and the preparation part, I'm sure there are people that are better than me in doing that. So there were a couple of people who were sharing their practices on Ohana Slack, and I encouraged them to write it as a blog post or something, share with everybody. Yeah, we need to find a way. I mean, I personally do Word documents. Then I did some Confluence. I'm doing some other stuff, but I haven't found something that is a great solution that I could recommend right now.
Mm. Andrew's saying that they use Confluence. So, Andrew, can you just explain?
Yeah, so we use basic Confluence / Jira. So we have like a subpage for all of our flows. Each flow has its own page. We don't necessarily write a full description of what each like item's doing, but we will basically say, okay, this flow, when was it last updated and why, and like what you updated. So we'll post the Jira ticket that was like logged by our internal teams to say, hey, we updated this, you know, because of this support ticket, here are the changes that were made. So you can kind of see when changes were made, why they were made. And so if that potentially broke something, you can just roll back to an earlier version.
That sounds great. I mean, I'm a fan of Confluence. I use Confluence. It's really good.
Yeah, it would be the same as just using like Dropbox, Google Docs.
Yeah.
Kind of anything of that nature where you can stash that.
But just making sure it's organized and doing one for each flow. You could probably do that one for each process builder.
Yeah, we do that as well. And it's all like really the naming convention. And like I work for a slightly bigger org. I think we're like 800 people. So it's, you know, we have to have that naming convention down. So it's super easy to find things and adjust things when we need to.
Cool. And I think that would be a great Salesforce Saturday topic. Anyone wants to pick that up, naming conventions and documentation. I know I am not the best at either of those. So that said, Andy, do you have anything else to add? I'm going to put your links to, or I already did, put the links to your YouTube channel and your website. What is the coupon code for? I also put that in our Google Doc.
Well, there's, it's not a coupon code. So I have this like kind of sign up form on my landing page that has a referral code or something so that I know where people are coming from. It's not really, so it's not really required. I just put it in there so I'll know, you know, where you're coming from, because I'm sharing this at a couple of places. So if you drop your email address, you're gonna get the Flow Picker infographic whenever it's ready anyway. Like I said, if you follow me on Twitter and on other platforms, you are going to also see that, you know, there will be new free sessions, and then there will be the Udemy class. There will be, I mean, I'll be doing a bunch of other stuff. And if you want to share with me best documentation practices and things like that, please ping me on Twitter and whatever. I would love to read that stuff, and I'll share that stuff with everybody. Like I said, I don't have a great solution for that yet.
Okay. Wonderful. So we don't have any speakers lined up, or I have somebody tentatively. Andrew is, might show us a flow soon, Andrew Shanks. But I don't have a schedule as of yet. But if you know anyone who, or have seen anybody's a blog that somebody wrote, or somebody would have a great presentation, please just let us know, and I will announce as soon as I know who the next speakers are and the dates that are coming up. And like I said, on the Google Doc, I already, while we were sitting here, updated the Andy's YouTube channel and his website with the referral code, and I will put the recording on there ASAP.
Let me ask you something. Now we have actually said we're gonna also do screen and auto launched.
Well, and that was in the description that Mark had sent me.
So are we do we still have time for me to show you a few more
Do people
tricks?
want to stick around?
Or
Yeah.
are you
Okay,
tired
yes,
already?
people want to see. People want to
Alright.
stay.
Yeah. All right, let's do this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to make this super quick. So it is going to be quick solutions, but let's do this because I don't want to break my promise. All right, here. So now,
You have to share your screen again.
oh yeah, that would be good. Okay, so I want to also show you how I change from one flow type to another. Let's see if that works, right? So I said I can take this before say flow, and I can make this a new flow and make this one, for example, Screenflow, right? And what I want to do is I want to change the flow type here to Screenflow. So this is going to break things though, obviously, because there are a bunch of references to dollar record. And these dollar record references won't work here. So we're going to have to fix that. What's that?
Sorry, I need to mute.
Oh, no problem. So now I'm going to do a get records, get opportunity, because this is not a record triggered flow. I need the record that I'm going to work on. And that one I want to get. That would be my SOQL step. I'm going to the database and I'm going to get it. And my ID needs to be equal. And this is the part where I need to create a variable for the record ID that will be of text. Of data type text, and it will be available for input. What this checkbox does is when I run my flow is going to ask me in debug mode, especially, what the record ID I want to work on for this flow. And I want to get only the first record and automatically store all fields. So that stays. Now that I got my record, I can change the references in my flow to the field values from that. So I need to go to my formula and edit my formula, and I need to change my dollar record close date to the get step records close date. Now, when I do my get step in my flow, Salesforce automatically creates a record variable for me that holds all the values. It is the equivalent of the dollar record that we have in record triggered flows. So I'm going to reference the close date here. Flow current date, like I mentioned before, stays the same. It's available in all flows. I don't need to do anything about that. I need to look at my update element, obviously. And I don't want to update the dollar record here. And what was I doing here? I want to use the IDs of opportunity. No, I want to specify the conditions and tell Salesforce which opportunity record I want to update. And again, the ID of the opportunity record I want to work on is going to be equal to the record ID. And I wanted to, and this got deleted too, I wanted to update the next step field to check close date. So in this case, I could have probably recreated the whole flow from the beginning. It didn't make a lot of sense, but hey, you know, we showed you we can do it. So save this one. And as you can see, my error messages disappeared. Now, this is a Screenflow. And in Screenflows, I can also use screen elements, obviously. Hide the header. Now I have this wonderful thing called section. This is also brand new. It's not coming with Summer 21, but you know, it is becoming generally available now. I can add columns and do 2-column format on my screens, which was not available before. So I can say I want to, and there's one more thing. This is in early beta, but it's fantastic. I can also use field values and add them directly from this picker over here. So I can point this screen over here to my record variable and say, you know what, I want to use the name here and the close date. It used to be that I had to create a text input box here and a date input box, and then, you know, set all the parameters and then named my component and this and that. I don't need to do any of that. So I can use this. Well, I forgot to name my screen element. Let's call this one opportunity. So now I have an opportunity review and update kind of screen. And then I'm checking again whether the close date is within 6 months or not. And then I'm updating that field, and that should work. So let's see if we can make this work. Now, I'm going to need an opportunity record ID here. So I'm going to go to my opportunity record, copy the record ID from my browser bar, and debug this. Run. So what this gives me is it shows me a screen, and the screen has the existing opportunity name on it. I can update, which is not going to update because I'm only updating the next step field, which I can change. I need to change. Let me just do that. So here, I can say update also No, let's do it this way. Here, update records. It is going to create 2 updates, which is not ideal, but let's do it this way. It's going to be faster. So I want to do an update on my opportunity record here with the field values from the screen. So debug again. So now I'm going to name this one opportunity NPS. And keep this date. Let's change this date to the 16th. And I can see now in my debug log that the update records happen here. So it updated the close date, and it updated also the opportunity name. And it also updated the next step to check close date. So if I refresh the screen here, you can see that the opportunity name changed and the close date changed. Now this one was like this before anyway, so we can't tell whether it was updated or not. Let me just delete that field and run this Screenflow again. So I'm not going to change any of this. Hit next and refresh here. And you see, check close date has been updated. Did I lose everybody?
No. There are
Okay.
a lot of like grades. That's so cool.
Any questions so far?
So does debug does make changes in your org or no is a question.
Good question. Debug will tell you what it's going to do, actually. The right answer is this, because look,
It doesn't have rollback mode on that
no,
one.
there is no rollback mode on that one. I was going to tell you, there is sometimes a rollback mode on these things. But now let me tell you what I know. Record triggered always comes with the rollback mode activated. That's how that rolls now with the new debug. There is a rollback mode probably on auto launched now, because I don't see it here on the screen. I don't see a rollback mode, so it does commit. Any other questions?
I don't see any. Anybody else?
Okay, now let's finish the tour. So save this one as a new version. And because we're going to change to auto launch now, we need to delete the opportunity screen. And we don't need this anymore. So we are going to, what this now became, there are no updates possible on the screen. It's just going to take the opportunity, get the opportunity record, and then do the evaluation about the whole 6 months thing, and then update the next step. Let me go back to my opportunity, clear this field again. So now I want to save this one as an auto launched, a new flow. Auto launched. Change the screen flow from the pick list to auto launched. Let's see if this breaks anything. It didn't seem to break anything, which is good. So let's debug. And now I get the run flow in rollback mode to answer the previous question. And paste my record ID, run. Refresh my screen. Boom. And that's your auto launch flow, folks.
Ben, what's your question?
Running it in debug updated the record. I guess I thought that would only happen if the flow was already activated.
Well, running in debug in auto launched actually gave me the option. Here.
Even though
It
the
doesn't
flow
have to
wasn't
be active.
activated?
No, it
It'll
doesn't.
still update. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be active.
Because when you're running it in debug, it's...
Because that's why there's an option. I mean, because look, I don't have to debug the active version. I'm debugging any version I want, right? So there could be 10 versions. So I'm running that one and it tells me, do you want to roll back the changes or not? So then I can say, I want to roll back the changes, which then is going to roll back everything, or I can commit the changes.
Okay, and you don't have the option to... Okay. You don't have the option to roll back in a Screenflow. You only have the option to roll back.
You know what? I had not noticed that myself, so I just noticed it myself. Yeah, it turns out on Screenflows, you don't really get that option.
Okay.
So as always, if you're doing this in DevOrg or Sandbox, then you can commit your changes. But if you're doing this in production, which is not very advisable, then yes. So yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody, I put a note here that I actually send a link to a landing page. I hope that one works. I just did it this morning, salesforcebreak.com. So you can drop your email there. I'm not going to be able to follow the emails. You put some emails here. I'm not going to be able to follow that. So once the picker is ready, I'm working on it. I'm going to email that to you all.
So the salesforcebreak.com, like I said, we put it on the Google Doc. So just go to that website, put in your email, Andy will get that and he'll send you the updates.
All right. Is there anything else I can do for you? So I was thinking we'll probably do 2 hours, which we are doing well. So I'm on time, I think.
Yes. People stayed around, so yes.
So like I said, I seriously answer all the questions. There are some questions that I cannot solve. I mean, people come at me with their real world use cases, which I love that, by the way. But some of them are just too complicated for me to solve, whatever, I'll tell you. But you can ask your questions, especially on the YouTube channel, and I answer them all. You can just look at the history, you know, you'll see. You can add me at Twitter. I don't really like LinkedIn, to be honest with you. I hope nobody's here from Microsoft, but I don't really like LinkedIn. I don't do one-to-one chat on LinkedIn. I'll answer you, but you know, let's move somewhere else. I'll tell you.